We all swore we'd stay together, no matter what. That was the rule, nobody goes home alone, and everyone leaves at the same time. It was supposed to be a foolproof plan, a pact that had kept us safe on countless nights out. But this time, the plan fell apart. It wasn't anyone's fault, really. Just one of those chaotic evenings where the drinks flow a little too freely, the music gets too loud, and before you know it, you're swept up in a swirling, glittering mess of laughter and flashing lights. I didn't even realize she was gone until it was too late. When the club closed and we spilled onto the street, I was the one who said it first. "Wait, where's Cassie?" The girls looked around, their faces blank with confusion. Nobody had seen her leave. Nobody had noticed she was gone. It was unlike her. Cassie was the responsible one, the one who always knew when it was time to call it a night. She was the one who reminded us to drink water, who made sure we kept an eye on our bags, who checked in every hour to make sure we were all okay. But now, she wasn't here. Panic bubbled up in my chest, sharp and sudden. I pulled out my phone, my fingers fumbling as I opened our group chat. "Cassie?" I typed. No response. I tried calling her. The line rang once, then twice, then went to voicemail. My heart sank. "Has anyone seen her?" I asked the group, my voice rising. A few shrugged, others shook their heads. Some of the girls were already distracted, hailing cabs, checking their makeup, scrolling through their phones. "I saw her at the bar about an hour ago," said one of them, her brow furrowing. "She was talking to that guy with the leather jacket. The tall one." She gestured vaguely back toward the club, but it didn't help. We were surrounded by a sea of people spilling out onto the street, all wearing leather jackets, all looking too tall. Did she say where she was going? I pressed, my stomach twisting tighter with every passing second. "I don't know," the girl replied, looking apologetic. "I thought she was still here. I didn't see her leave." I tried calling again. Nothing. I texted her one more time, "Cassie, where are you? Are you okay?" No reply. By now, most of the group had started to disperse. The girls who lived nearby decided to walk home, while a few others got into a cab together. I lingered on the curb, my phone in hand, scanning the crowd for any sign of Cass's blonde hair, her sequin dress. The streetlights glared down, harsh and cold, as I sent another text. "Cassie, please call me. I'm worried." Still nothing. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe she got tired and went home early. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she'd been sidetracked by someone she knew. There had to be a simple explanation. But no matter how many excuses I made, I couldn't shake the gnawing feeling in my gut. Something wasn't right. Just then, my phone buzzed. I snatched it up, hope surging. It was a notification, an update from the rideshare app. Cass's account had booked an Uber. Relief flooded through me. She must be on her way home. But when I opened the notification, my breath caught in my throat. The address wasn't hers. It wasn't anyone's. I didn't recognize it. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. Cassie would never call a car to some random location. She always knew where she was going. She was careful, cautious, too cautious to end up in an Uber heading to a strange address in the middle of the night. I tried to think of any reason, any explanation that made sense, but I came up blank. I looked up the address. It was across town, in a part of the city I didn't know well. A quiet residential area, far from the club, far from Cass's apartment, far from anywhere we'd ever gone together. My stomach churned as I stared at the map, the little blue pin marking the destination. I tried calling her again. Still no answer. I texted her, "Where are you going? Who are you with?" Nothing. The street around me had emptied out. The last of the girls had gone home. The line of taxis outside the club had dwindled, and the bouncers were locking the doors. The air felt colder now, and the noise of the city had faded to an eerie silence. I was alone. And so was she. I kept staring at the rideshare receipt, hoping the address would make sense if I looked at it long enough. It didn't. It wasn't close to her apartment. It wasn't near the club or any of her favorite haunts. I even searched my texts and our group chat history to see if she'd mentioned a new friend who lived there. Nothing. I couldn't shake the thought that she'd made a mistake. Maybe she'd entered the wrong address in the app. Or maybe she was meeting someone she hadn't told us about. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. This wasn't like Cassie. She was the one who planned every night down to the last detail, who made sure we all got home safely. She didn't just disappear without a word. I opened her Instagram, scrolling through her stories. The last one was from earlier that evening, just before we'd left for the club. It showed her standing in front of a mirror, her sequin dress catching the light as she spun around and laughed. The caption read, "Girls' Night Out. Dancer sparkles, nothing unusual. No hints of anything wrong." I checked her profile, no new posts, no recent comments that might explain where she'd gone. I hesitated before calling her again. She'd ignored my last few calls. What were the chances she'd pick up this time? Still, I couldn't just do nothing. I tapped her name, held the phone to my ear, and listened as it rang. Once. Twice. Then straight to voicemail. "Cassie, it's me again. Please call me back. I'm worried about you." I hung up and stared at my phone. What was I supposed to do? Go home and wait for her to text me? Call her boyfriend, no, her husband, and admit I had no idea where she was? They'd just gotten married last spring, and while he was a nice enough guy, we'd never been particularly close. Cassie always said he trusted her and her friends, never made a fuss about our girls' nights out. Would calling him now feel like overreacting? Would he think I was being paranoid? Still, I couldn't just sit there. I copied the rideshare address into my Maps app. The route popped up, 15 minutes by car, a residential neighborhood, mostly older apartment buildings and some newer townhouses. The area looked quiet. Safe, even. Not the kind of place you'd expect trouble. But it wasn't Cass's home, and that was enough to make me uneasy. I paced the sidewalk, the cold air biting at my skin. I thought about hailing a cab, going to the address myself. But what if she was fine? What if she was just meeting a friend she hadn't mentioned? I didn't want to be the overbearing friend who showed up uninvited. At the same time, the thought of her alone, at some unfamiliar place in the middle of the night, made me feel sick. I opened our group chat again. The others had all gone home. I typed out a message, "Hey, has anyone heard from Cassie? She took an Uber to a random address and isn't answering her phone." I stared at the screen, wondering if they'd think I was overreacting. Before I could second-guess myself, I hit send. A minute later, my phone buzzed. It was Jess, one of the girls who had left early. Weird. "No, haven't heard from her. Have you tried calling?" "Yes," I replied. "She's not picking up." Jess's response came quickly. "You think she's okay? Maybe she just passed out early?" I hesitated. I didn't want to sound dramatic, but I couldn't ignore the knot in my stomach. "I don't know. The address isn't hers. And it's not Mark's either." Jess didn't respond right away. When she finally did, her message made my chest tighten. "That's not like her. Should we go look for her?" Before I could answer, another girl in the chat chimed in, "Cass is fine. She always looks out for herself. She's probably at a friend's place." That wasn't good enough for me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I copied the rideshare address again and sent it to the group. "If anyone knows someone who lives here, let me know. I'm going to try calling her again." I dialed her number. This time, it didn't even ring. It went straight to voicemail. My anxiety spiked. Why was her phone off? Had the battery died? Or had something else happened? I checked the map again. The address wasn't far. I could be there in 10 minutes if I took a cab. I typed another message to the group, "I'm going to head over there just to be sure she's okay." Jess replied almost immediately, "Keep us posted. I'm sure she's fine, but good to double check." I hailed a cab and gave the driver the address. As we pulled away, I stared out the window, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. Cassie was probably fine. She was probably asleep, or her phone was dead. But as the car turned down a quiet, dimly lit street, my heart sank. The houses were small and closely packed, most of them dark at this hour. A single street lamp flickered at the corner, casting long, distorted shadows across the cracked sidewalk. The cab slowed as we approached the address. It was a nondescript apartment building, older but well kept. The lights were on in a few windows, but it looked mostly still. I stepped out of the cab, the cold air hitting me like a slap. I stared up at the building, unsure of what to do next. If she was inside, should I knock on doors until someone answered? Should I call her name? I didn't know what I was looking for, only that I couldn't leave without knowing she was okay. I took a deep breath and walked up to the entrance, my heart pounding. I had no plan. I just needed to find her. I stood outside the building, my breath visible in the cold night air. It was quiet, eerily so. The distant hum of traffic was the only sound. I looked up at the lit windows, searching for any sign of movement, any clue that might point me toward Cassie. But there was nothing. Just the soft glow of lights behind curtains and the occasional flicker of a TV screen. I pulled out my phone again, staring at her name in my contacts. The idea of calling her one more time felt futile, but I couldn't stop myself. I hit the call button. Once again, it went straight to voicemail. I listened to her familiar outgoing message, her cheerful voice saying she'd call me back as soon as she could. It sounded hollow now, almost mocking. I didn't leave another message. Taking a deep breath, I walked up to the building's front door. It was locked, as I expected, with a buzzer panel listing names and apartment numbers. None of the names were familiar. I scanned them, hoping for a clue, but came up empty. My fingers hovered over the buttons, uncertain of what to do. Should I just pick one at random and hope someone answered? Or was that too risky, too invasive? I stepped back, glancing around. The street was deserted. The building's facade, old brick and peeling paint, seemed to loom over me. I checked my phone again, hoping someone from the group chat had responded, but there were no new messages. I was alone in this. Cass's silence felt heavier with each passing minute. I remembered the rideshare receipt and pulled it up again. The address matched this building. If she had taken the Uber here, she had to be inside. But why? Why this place, and why hadn't she answered any of my calls? Just as I was about to press one of the buzzers, the door opened. A man stepped out, bundled in a heavy coat and scarf, his breath puffing in the cold. He looked at me briefly, then walked past without a word. Before the door could swing shut, I caught it and slipped inside, my heart pounding. The lobby was small and dimly lit, with a staircase on one side and a narrow hallway on the other. The smell of old wood and faint mildew hung in the air. I hesitated, unsure of where to go. The mailboxes lining the wall gave no indication of which apartment might be hers. I considered knocking on doors at random, but that felt reckless. What if she wasn't here? What if she didn't want to be found? I walked toward the stairs, each step echoing in the quiet. On the second floor, the hallway stretched out before me, lined with closed doors. I stood there for a moment, straining to hear any sound, voices, music, movement, but it was silent. My instincts told me she was here, but I had no idea which door to knock on. The uncertainty gnawed at me. What was I even doing? Was this crossing a line? Then, faintly, I heard something. A muffled voice. It was coming from farther down the hall, behind one of the doors. My heart leapt. Could it be her? I followed the sound, stopping in front of a door with peeling numbers. The voice grew clearer, low, murmured, as if someone was speaking on the phone. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the door. What if it wasn't her? What if it was a stranger, someone who had no idea why I was here? I knocked softly. The voice stopped. For a moment, there was no sound at all. I knocked again, a little louder this time. I heard movement, a shuffle of footsteps, then the door opened just a crack. A woman peered out, not Cassie, but someone older, with tired eyes and a wary expression. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice cautious. "Sorry to bother you," I said quickly. "I'm looking for my friend. She came here earlier tonight. Her name is Cassie. Blonde, about this tall," I gestured vaguely, feeling foolish. She might have gotten the wrong address. The woman frowned. "I don't know anyone by that name." "She might have been in an Uber that dropped her off here," I pressed. "It could have been a mistake. Maybe she knocked on the wrong door?" The woman's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry, but no one's come by tonight. Just me and my husband here. Maybe you should try the other floors." I nodded, thanking her. She closed the door, and I stood there, my chest tight. If she wasn't here, then where was she? I walked back down the hall, feeling the weight of my worry growing heavier. I tried to tell myself that I was wrong, that she was fine, that this was just a misunderstanding. But the knot in my stomach wouldn't go away. I decided to try the third floor. As I climbed the creaky stairs, I sent another message to the group chat, no sign of her yet. I'm still looking. When I reached the next hallway, it was the same as the one before, closed doors, dim light, silence. I stopped in front of each door, listening for any sound. Nothing. I knocked on 2 more doors, but no one answered. My determination started to waver. I felt like I was chasing shadows, following a lead that had no end. As I turned to head back down, I caught sight of something at the far end of the hall. A faint light under one of the doors, flickering as if from a TV or a phone screen. My pulse quickened. It could be nothing. Or it could be her. I approached the door slowly, my hand trembling as I raised it to knock. I knocked once, soft and uncertain, then again a little louder. I half expected silence, the same stillness I'd met at every other door. But this time, I heard something, Movement, a soft shuffle, the faint sound of someone approaching. My heart raced. It had to be her. Who else could it be? When the door creaked open, it wasn't Cassie standing there. It was a man I didn't recognize, his expression puzzled. He looked older, maybe in his 40s, with a worn jacket slung over his shoulders and tired lines on his face. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone cautious but not unfriendly. Sorry to bother you," I stammered. "I'm looking for a friend. She came here earlier tonight, blonde, wearing a sequin dress. I think she might have gotten dropped off at the wrong address." He frowned, his brow furrowing as he glanced back over his shoulder, then returned his gaze to me. "I haven't seen anyone like that," he said. "You're sure it was this building?" I hesitated. "It's the address from her rideshare receipt. Maybe she came to the wrong apartment, or maybe she left before I got here?" The man shook his head. "Sorry, I haven't heard anything. Been here all night." My stomach sank. I thanked him and turned away, heading back down the hall. The flicker of hope I'd had when I saw that light had vanished, leaving me more lost than before. I stopped at the top of the stairs, leaning against the wall, trying to collect my thoughts. If she wasn't here, where could she be? I checked my phone again, scrolling through the group chat. No new messages. No one else had heard from her. I tried her number once more, even though I knew it would go straight to voicemail. It did. Her familiar outgoing message played again, and I hung up before the tone. The frustration and worry churned in my chest, making it hard to breathe. I had no choice. I had to go back to square one. The rideshare had ended here, but that didn't mean she was still inside. Maybe she'd gotten out and walked to a different building. Maybe she'd realized the mistake and caught another ride. Or maybe something had gone wrong before she even got here. I stepped out onto the street again, the night colder now, the sky dark and heavy. The neighborhood was quiet, just a few cars parked along the curb, a couple of streetlights buzzing faintly. I walked the block slowly, scanning each building, looking for any sign of movement. I felt like a ghost, haunting the street in search of someone who wasn't there. As I reached the corner, I stopped, my eyes catching on something small and glinting on the sidewalk. I bent down to pick it up, a gold earring, delicate and familiar. Cass's earring. She'd been wearing them when we went out that night. I was sure of it. My heart thudded in my chest as I looked around, hoping to see her stepping out of a shadowed doorway, or waving at me from across the street. But there was no one. Just the faint sound of distant traffic and the rustle of leaves in the cold wind. I clenched the earring in my fist, trying to hold on to the hope that she was nearby. That I'd find her. I retraced my steps, going back to the building, back to the steps where the cab had dropped her off. I searched for more clues, a scarf, a shoe, anything that would point me in the right direction. But there was nothing else. The earring was all I had. I sank onto the cold steps, staring at the small piece of jewelry in my hand. It felt like a thread, the only connection I had left to her. She'd been here. She had to be close. I just needed to figure out where she'd gone. The wind picked up, and I pulled my jacket tighter around me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I grabbed it, hoping it was her, but it was just a message from Jess. "Any luck?" I stared at the screen, unsure of how to respond. No, there hadn't been any luck. Just the opposite. Cassie was still missing, and all I had was her earring and an address that made no sense. I typed back, "No. I found her earring, but I still don't know where she is." Jess replied quickly. "That's something at least. Maybe she realized it was the wrong address and started walking home." "Maybe," I wrote, though I didn't believe it. Cassie wouldn't have just started walking in the middle of the night. She was smarter than that. Careful. And if she'd walked somewhere, why hadn't she called or texted to let us know she was okay? I thought about calling her husband, Mark. He'd know what to do. He might have heard from her. But the thought of explaining how I'd let her slip away, how I'd been the last to see her before she got in that Uber, made me hesitate. What if I was overreacting? What if she was fine and I'd only make things worse by involving him? I gripped the earring tightly, staring out at the dark street. Cassie was out there somewhere. I just had to keep looking. As the hours dragged on, the night felt heavier. The street had grown even quieter, the hum of distant traffic fading into the background. I paced back and forth on the sidewalk, gripping Cass's earring like it was some kind of lifeline. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. Every instinct screamed that I needed to find her, but I was out of options, out of leads, out of hope. I stared at my phone. It was past 2 in the morning. The thought of calling Mark kept circling in my head. He would want to know. He deserved to know. But I still hesitated. What if this was just some weird misunderstanding? What if she was already home, safe, and I just didn't realize it? That small, fragile hope kept me from pressing his name on my screen. But I knew, deep down, that I couldn't keep waiting. I decided to call one more time. Her phone went straight to voicemail again, just like before. My stomach dropped, but this time, I left a message. Cassie, it's me. Please, just call me back. I'm worried about you. I hung up, the silence around me feeling suffocating. I took a deep breath, then opened a rideshare app on my phone. If I couldn't find her, maybe I could retrace her steps. I requested a ride to the address from her last trip. The car arrived quickly, and I slid into the back seat, trying not to think about what I might find. The driver didn't make small talk, which I appreciated. I sat silently, watching the city blur past the window, my mind racing. I kept going over the night in my head. The club, the laughter, the noise, everything had seemed fine. She had seemed fine. But now, with every passing moment, it all felt more and more like a dream I couldn't quite remember. The only thing I knew for sure was that Cassie had gotten into that Uber, and I hadn't seen her since. When we pulled up in front of the address, I felt a chill run through me. It was a quiet block, rows of modest apartments and townhouses lining the street. The same street I had walked earlier, searching for her, finding nothing. But now, in the stillness of the night, the place seemed more sinister. The shadows cast by the streetlights felt darker, longer, stretching across the pavement like silent warnings. I stepped out of the car, clutching my phone in one hand and her earring in the other. I scanned the street again, looking for any sign of her. The driver waited for a moment before pulling away, leaving me alone. I stood there, unsure of what to do next. I'd already knocked on doors, walked the block, called her a dozen times. What else was left? My phone buzzed. A message from Jess. Any luck yet? No, I typed back. I'm at the address again, but I don't know what to do. Jess responded almost immediately. Maybe try calling Mark. He might have heard from her. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over Mark's contact. I'd been avoiding it, hoping I could solve this on my own, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was running out of time. I pressed his name, the phone ringing in my ear. He picked up after a few rings. Hello? His voice was groggy, but it quickly turned alert. Who is this? Mark, it's me, I said, my voice trembling. I'm sorry to call so late, but I haven't heard from Cassie. She left the club hours ago, and she hasn't been answering her phone. There was a long pause. She's not home? He asked, his voice rising with worry. No, I said. Her last rideshare was to this address, but I can't find her. I thought maybe she was with a friend or, my words trailed off. I didn't want to say what I was really thinking. I'm coming over, he said. Text me the address. I did as he asked, and then I waited. The minutes felt like hours as I stood on the sidewalk, watching the dark windows of the building, listening to the faint rustle of leaves in the cold wind. I thought about knocking on doors again, but I knew it would only lead to more dead ends. All I could do now was wait for Mark. When he arrived, he parked hastily and got out of the car, his expression tight with concern. He walked straight up to me. What happened? He asked. Start from the beginning. I told him everything, the night out with the girls, Cassie leaving in the Uber, the random address, the unanswered calls. I handed him the earring I'd found. He stared at it for a moment, then clenched his jaw. She would never just disappear, he said. She's always careful. Always lets me know where she is. I know, I said. That's why I'm so worried. This isn't like her. Mark looked up at the building, then back at me. We should call the police. The word hit me like a punch. The police. This was serious. This was real. Until that moment, I'd held on to the hope that she would just show up, that she'd call and laugh it off as some silly mistake. But now, with Mark standing beside me, with the cold wind biting at my skin and the earring still in my hand, I knew this was no mistake. I nodded. Yeah. Let's call them. Mark pulled out his phone, and as he dialed, I looked back at the building one last time. The shadows seemed darker now, deeper, as if they were hiding something I couldn't see. I clenched the earring tightly, whispering a silent plea, Cassie, wherever you are, please be okay.